Imagine waking up tomorrow and checking your bank account. Same number, same salary. Nothing changed. But something did change. You just don't know it yet. Somewhere right now, a person you've never met just learned how to do your job. Not in years, not in months, in a weekend, using AI tools that cost less than your Netflix subscription. And they're willing to charge half of what you charge. Your boss doesn't need to fire you. They don't need to say anything at all. They just quietly stop giving you raises. They add more tasks to your plate. They call it efficiency. They call it optimization. And you keep working, harder than before, thinking that effort equals security. It doesn't. Not anymore. This video is about something that's already happening to designers, analysts, writers, developers, marketers, to people who are good at what they do, people who did everything right. This isn't a recession. This isn't automation taking your job in one dramatic moment. This is slower, quieter, and in many ways, more dangerous. Let's start with how most people think about their career right now. You have a skill. Maybe you learned it in school, maybe through experience. You got good at it. You got hired. And for a while, the logic was simple. Get better at your skill and your value goes up. Work more years, earn more money. That logic worked. For decades, it worked. And most people are still operating on that logic today. AI is just a tool, people say. It helps me work faster. And that's true, it does. But that's also exactly the problem. Because while you're using AI to work faster, someone else is using the same AI to enter your market from zero, and they're competitive on day one. The bubble isn't dramatic, it just slowly deflates, and most people don't notice until the air is almost gone. 10 years ago, if you were a graphic designer in Chicago, you competed with other designers in Chicago. The pool was manageable. Then, global hiring opened up. Suddenly, you were competing with designers from Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, Latin America. Skilled people, talented people, but at least the skill gap still existed. It still took years to become genuinely good. Now that gap is compressing fast. A person with 6 months of practice and access to the right AI tools can produce work that looks, to most clients, like the work of a 3-year professional. Not always, not for complex projects, but for the majority of everyday tasks, yes, and that's where 80% of the market lives. So now you're not just competing with experienced professionals across the globe. You're competing with beginners who are armed with tools that erase the experience gap. You didn't get worse. The market got crowded. Here's the mechanism behind all of this. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Skills have always had 2 components, the knowledge itself and the time it takes to acquire it. Time was the barrier. Time was the moat. AI is dismantling that moat. Tasks that used to require deep expertise, writing a business proposal, building a basic data model, creating a marketing campaign, now have a dramatically lower entry floor. The learning curve flattens. What used to take 5 years to learn now takes 5 months, sometimes 5 weeks. For certain tasks, 5 prompts. That doesn't mean expertise disappears. It means the middle layer, the competent professional layer, is getting squeezed from below. The mountain isn't gone, but when it's a hill, more people can climb it. And when more people can climb it, the view from the top becomes less exclusive. Basic economics. When supply goes up and demand stays the same, price goes down. The supply of competent work has multiplied in the last 3 years, and the market responds to supply. The market doesn't care how hard you worked to get where you are. It cares about price and output. Go to any major freelance platform right now. In many categories, rates have not increased in 5 years. In some, they've dropped. Meanwhile, the volume of work expected per person has gone up. You're doing more, earning the same or less adjusted for inflation. This isn't a conspiracy. Nobody gathered in a room and decided to lower your salary. It's a structural shift driven by supply, competition, and tools that compress skill barriers. And what makes it difficult to respond to is this. It doesn't feel like a crisis. It feels like normal. Basic economics. When supply goes up and demand stays the same, price goes down. The supply of competent work has multiplied in the last 3 years, and the market responds to supply. The market doesn't care how hard you worked to get where you are. It cares about price and output. Go to any major freelance platform right now. In many categories, rates have not increased in 5 years. In some, they've dropped. Meanwhile, the volume of work expected per person has gone up. You're doing more, earning the same or less adjusted for inflation. This isn't a conspiracy. Nobody gathered in a room and decided to lower your salary. It's a structural shift driven by supply, competition, and tools that compress skill barriers. And what makes it difficult to respond to is this: it doesn't feel like a crisis. It feels like normal. Companies aren't announcing this shift. There's no memo. It happens through decisions that each look reasonable in isolation. We are not filling that open position. The team can absorb it. This year's raises will be modest, market conditions. We're restructuring for efficiency. Each one is defensible. Together, they form a pattern, doing more with fewer people at lower per-unit cost. This is not loud. That's what makes it dangerous. A loud crisis gets a response. A slow, quiet adjustment just becomes the new normal. So who is doing well in this environment? They're not always the most technically skilled. They share one characteristic. They stopped thinking of themselves as the person who does the work and started thinking of themselves as the person who directs the work. There's a real difference between operating a tool and deciding what the tool should accomplish. A writer who uses AI to produce content faster is an operator. A strategist who determines which content should exist, why it matters, and how it fits a larger goal, and then uses AI to execute, is an orchestrator. The operator's value compresses with the tool. The orchestrator's value holds, because judgment, context, and strategic thinking aren't things that get replaced at scale. The people winning right now moved up the value chain, not in title, in function. They ask a different question, not "how do I do this task?" but "which tasks should exist and why?" The market has changed structurally. It's not going back. The compression of skill barriers, the globalization of competition, the flattening of output costs, these are permanent features of the landscape now. Acknowledging that isn't pessimism, it's clarity. The people who navigate this well aren't the ones who work harder inside the old model. They're the ones who recognize the model changed and adjust what they offer, how they position themselves, and where they direct their energy. Execution has become a commodity. Judgment hasn't. The ability to look at a complex situation and decide what matters, what to build, what to ignore, what to automate, what to keep human, that's the capability this market is beginning to price at a premium. In this new economy, you don't get paid for doing the work. You get paid for deciding what work should be done. That's not a small distinction. That's the whole game.